Tracy, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Wulwyn. Happy 2021. So what's new with you in this new year?
2021. What's new? Oh my goodness, I am stripping.
You're
Um,
tripping or you're
I'm
stripping?
stripping things off.
You're letting go of those sandbags so you
I'm
can ascend.
letting, I'm letting go. I'm letting go. I, busy is not my friend anymore. Busy is
Wow.
not my friend. I'm looking for our notepad where I write my notes on here. Busy is not my friend. I am not. I'm cutting stuff out. And I'm finding out I am more focused. It is the second day, right? The second day of me really doing it. I'm more focused. There are 9 books I have to write. I haven't started. I started one. There were 10. I've completed one. And this is since 2013. Those titles have been sitting. I had to go through my journal and go and find the titles and then create the folders on social, not social media, folders on my computer, on the cloud, so I can work anywhere, and cutting off boards. It's on this board, that board. I'm like, no, thank you. Not gonna do it anymore. It's a spiritual move, where I have to really be quiet if I want God to direct me moving forward. And in that direction, what I know will occur is things that I will want to do, my business that would take me 20 years plus. And with God directing me, when I put those two side by side, I would take 20 years to do 10%. And if I spent my time in the secret place and truly asking God for direction, He can catapult me 20 years within a couple of days if He so desires.
Hmm.
So that's it in
Hmm.
a nutshell.
That
Um,
is, that is, I was going to say that what you just talked about in your own personal experience is what I've found in probably every single conversation I've had with people since the beginning of this year, which is 6 days old.
What?
Like
I thought I was
6 days.
unique.
I know you are unique, my friend. You are unique. And, the trend is one thing, but what you do with the trend is all you.
That's a good
You,
one.
you do you, boo, and you do it well. So, but that is it. It's, the analogy I've come up with in the last day or so talking about this, it's like, if you're in a hot air balloon, what allows you to ascend, what allows you to rise
Mm.
is letting go of the sandbags, right?
Hmm.
And it actually came yesterday when I was talking to a client, and he had a real pivotal moment right at the end of the year where, I mean, it was like the healing crisis where something triggered him, and then he ended up having some anxiety over it, and then he got sick, and it just was this, quote unquote perfect storm. But
Hmm.
what came out of it is he literally, like, he was one that just tossed all the bags, right? It wasn't like, well, let's go up a little bit and throw a couple back. He was just like, let go of all the bags. And he came into 20. I mean, this is a guy who was a pleaser. Like, he wouldn't do anything
Mm.
unless it was like, okay, is it going to work out for this person, for this person? And I said to him, I go, well, so how does it feel now? And he's just like, he is just, I mean, basically he's doing things completely differently.
Yeah.
And this is in a period of like 3 week time, right?
Yeah.
So what shifted? What happened? That's what we were talking about.
Uh-huh.
And he says, I just don't care. It's not that I don't care about people, but people got to figure out their own self. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, he went from, I'm a people pleaser extraordinaire to, if I don't please myself, I'm not good for anybody.
Hmm.
And that was the piece, is that, I think we're finally, I don't, what happened and what the shift in, and maybe it's because of all the pressure, right? Like, say it's like, what comes out of, the carbon when it's pressurized is a diamond. If it gets
Diamond.
enough pressure,
Hmm.
it becomes something super shiny and valuable. And I think
Hmm.
that's what's happening. I mean, 2020 was a pressure year, and it felt even more so for some than others. But this is the other thing too that I think is so, I find amusing. I
Hmm.
probably shouldn't be amusing over it, but everybody's like, by 2020, get the heck out, all this kind of, and I'm thinking, okay, there isn't this thing called a delineation of time where you say goodbye to one year and all the things that go with that year go away suddenly, like,
Right.
you snap your fingers. I'm like, that's just the most ridiculous thing. And I hate to say it, but I think in a lot of ways, 2020 prepared us for 20, every year before prepares us for the year after.
Correct.
So in some ways it's going to be different and it may be better because of our preparation. In some ways it's going to be brand new again and very uncomfortable. So if people think the discomfort of 2020, I think at the end of 2021, we're going to be looking back at 2020 like it was a walk in the park. We'll be like, oh my God, I wish I could go
There
back
you
to
go. There
2020.
you go. There you go. You know, you say that. I was on a live, was watching a buddy of mine do a virtual launch of his organization, and he goes, 2020 was a miserable, horrible year. And I understood where he was coming from, right? With the deaths, etc.
Mhm.
Um, but I said to myself, no, no, 2020 was perfect. You know, it's when I say perfect, it a bone when it breaks becomes stronger than what it was before.
Mm.
It's what it said. When you break, you if I break this arm, this forearm of mine, and this reset it and it heals, it's stronger than the original strength that was there. Pain, change, etc. When it hits you, there are two choices in the choice spectrum. I either go, woe is me, I'm gonna die, or I'm just gonna stay here and mope, or I'm going to take this pain and become stronger from it. The
Mhm.
bone decides itself because it's what it's made out of. It just recreates and gets stronger. We have to decide: are we going to get stronger from this? And I beg and I run to the side, to the corner, in the red corner. We are coming back strong, right? I'm running to that red corner in this boxing ring and saying, 2020 has prepared me to. I learned how to do a better pivot. I've learned how to engage better. I've seen what's more important. And what I know more is more important in 2021 is family. Because 20 years from now, we're still going with the word with the 20 years from now, or 25 or 30 on my dying bed, and they ask, what is it in your life that you're most grateful for? I'm not going to say I'm grateful for the $4 trillion I made. No, I'm not grateful for the stewarding I did. No, I'm going to look and say I'm grateful for the kids. I'm grateful for you and my grandkids and my wife. I always joke she's going to go first, but anyway, she's there. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you. I'm not going to be thinking on the client that I helped to do. No. So I'm going to work on 2020 taught me how to pivot, hunker down, handle the family, and then go out from there. Because when I go out from there, I think I am going with an armor that there's no chinks in it.
Mm. Well, there's always going to be chinks. And I think that's the piece that a lot of times we look for.
Mm.
There's always gaps. Like any armor isn't one piece of metal, right? It's made up of all sorts of different pieces of metal that are put
True,
together. And between those are gaps, right?
true,
And there are
true.
places where that sword can get in. It's not about being invincible.
Mm,
It's about being aligned. And I think that's what really this is about, is
mm,
that what I'm hearing you say is that
mm.
you get to align with
Say
what's
that.
important to you. I mean, I was talking to a client about a storyline, that keeps coming up. That's the age old story. We all have that wounded age old story, whatever it was. A lot of us, it's about betrayal or feeling left out or feeling like we don't belong or we don't fit in or, all of that, being abandoned, right? But his is very true, and it came from a very serious place. I mean, it came from being adopted, right? And when a child is given away and they don't know
Mhm.
why, that sets a tone in a story. But the problem is then that becomes the story that hijacks every single story after that. So you literally translate through that one storyline. So, oh,
Mm.
these people didn't ask me to be on this leadership team, it's because I don't belong. This
Mm.
person didn't want me in their club, it's because I don't belong. This boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with me, it's because I'm not lovable and I don't belong, right? So
Mm.
we superimpose that original story. So right now, all of our wounded stories, through 2020 twisting us, and what it did is it's the healing crisis challenge, where it puts so much pressure on our system that all those parts that are not working as well, and we have to become, was, what does pain do? Pain makes us aware.
Mm.
Pain is not there. It's like, what did I say to him earlier today? I said, if you walk into the living room and every time you walk into the living room, you bang your knee on that table. And you're like, that darn table. Every time I come into this room, I bang my knee on that table. That pain is telling you something needs to change.
Mm.
Why don't you move the table? Right? Or come into the room a different way. Something needs to change. And that's what it's there to tell us. And so the pains that we're feeling, we can sit there and go, bad pains, bad. That hurts. I don't like that. How can I distract myself from the pain? How can I not look at that because it's painful? Or we can say, that pain has something serious to tell me.
Mm.
And in that pain is our superpower. So as I said to him, I said, you felt completely abandoned. And so what is the most important thing to you in life? What do you do? Why are you so passionate? Why are passionate people passionate? It's because they care.
Mm.
And I said, you want connection because you came into this life and that was the first bone broken in your body was connection. And so you healed that. And that is your superpower to the rest of the world. Everywhere you go, you're passionate because you care, because you want love and connection. And you're here to not only get it for yourself, but to create it for others. I said, so the very bone that gets broken becomes our super bone, right? Our superpower, our super strength, if we choose to look at it that way. You said, if we break a bone, it becomes stronger only if we don't keep telling ourselves that that's a weak place. Because if we say that's a weak, so it gets weaker. Right? If we allow the bone to truly heal at time and place, we don't try to push ourselves. We give ourselves ample time for that. It will. But if we don't, it won't. It'll actually do the opposite. Right? Doesn't kill it. What doesn't kill us makes us weaker if we choose to give it that storyline.
Gotcha.
Right? So it can go either way. It's not automatic. And I think the resilience piece you were speaking to is what we get to look at. Is 2020 challenged us in so many ways, and 2021, sorry folks, but it's going to challenge us in whole new ways that are some cases going to be a lot more uncomfortable. But what it's doing when you feel that pain, lean into it, because it's trying to tell you something not only about what needs to change, but who you are and what you came here for. And if we can learn to translate in that manner, then we're going to get the information you talked about, God getting you there faster. It's not the 20-year plan, it's the 2-minute plan. That's how we're going to get there faster. Like the guy just decided to toss all the sandbags. He's like, oh, if I can toss one, why can't I toss all of them?
Correct.
Right. And I think that's the piece, is that it's if we learn to translate things correctly. Pain is not bad. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. Is it sometimes unbearable? Yes, sometimes it can feel that way. But is it always there to show us something that we wouldn't be able to see otherwise? Yes. And obviously, if it took us collectively to bring in 2020, we needed some serious wake-up calls. We needed to be slapped around a number of times, dropped on our heads, picked up, dropped again, because we weren't getting the memo. But I think because so much of that pressure came through, we couldn't help but get the memo. Correct. And so that's why a lot of people like yourself now are like getting real crystal clear about what life is all about.
So good question for you here. What 2 questions in one? You could split it, right? What's a super bone that has been broken in your life? 1, and 2, what kind of sandbags are you pulling out of you? Not the clients, not just you. Tell me about you. Talk to me.
So pretty much from the end of the year, my wound story, right, is very similar. They always say you attract what you put out there, right? So your story attracts other people's stories. So you can pretty much figure out what my story is. It's been the same kind of thing of not belonging, right? Not fitting in, feeling like I'm a unicorn, but not a good kind. Because I was often told, I'm to this, to the word TOO was used a lot.
Gotcha.
When referring to me growing up. And I sometimes chose to grab that by a tail and wear it as a badge of courage. But most of the time, I think what it really did is it made me feel like I couldn't be lovable. And so one of the things that I did, some people turn to the unlovable, unworthy, self beating up thing. I did the opposite. I did the I'm better than you thing. I did the I'm gonna wall up and I'm gonna battle up and I'm gonna put on my armor 10 feet thick because I don't need you because I'm better than you.
Gotcha.
That's what I did. And so that's ego, right? It's protecting me from being further hurt. But it doesn't let anything in either. And what I've been really battling with is a lot of ego wounds,
Mm,
a lot of stuff that's been challenging my ego,
gotcha.
and especially in the last 3 days, the sandbags I've been hoisting have been, around feeling that kind of like, and I've been having dreams about particular people in my life and
Wow.
waking up just like, oh, that person is, and then I'm like, oh, that person, that would be me. And let me look at that. And it's been very, I mean, it's been very humbling,
Mm,
to say the least. But
yes.
I know when that story comes up and I start to push that person or that situation away, being like, I don't need that. I'm better than that. Like, I don't think I say those words to myself, but that's essentially what the
Correct.
translation's about. I get to look at that and go, oh, that's my wounded child that doesn't think that I belong. That's that old storyline.
Mm,
That was true at a certain time, but it's not true today unless I make it true. And that's not what this is about. So I can choose to go into my self-righteous, ego-driven place, right? Or I can lean into this and clarify and clear, and if I do need to hoist some sandbags that are people, because their storyline is attracting my storyline and they're not good for me, then that's fine. But I don't need to make it about them,
wow.
because ultimately it's about me and it's about me learning that story. So yeah, I've really struggled with self-righteousness a lot in my
Mm,
life and
mm,
really put myself kind of on this pedestal. And what I realize about putting myself on the pedestal is other people do that. And then you wonder, why are they putting me on a pedestal? Because I'm doing that. But it's to protect myself from drowning, right?
correct.
Put myself on higher ground so that I don't drown. And there's no water,
Mm, mm, mm.
right? And I think that's the piece. So yeah, to get real clear and to be totally vulnerable and totally open and honest about my own struggles, that's it. And I was sharing this with my best friend, and I was telling her about, some things I was going through with some certain people. And I said, I had this meditation where I was feeling so much jealousy over other people's stuff. This person got a new mountain home, and this person, and I went into this meditation and I had them in this circle around me. And all I felt from them was love. All I felt from them was giving back what I wanted. They're like, you can have that too. You can be that too. And it really literally brought me to tears. And I
Mm,
realized all these people only want for me what I want for myself. I'm projecting this belief that I can't have it on them because they have it and I don't. I, instead of leaning into the woundedness, feeling of I'm sad because I don't have it, I want to project jealousy that they do.
mm,
And it was so healing. I mean, in an instant, I just felt nothing but love, nothing but value, nothing but possibility, nothing but, expansion. And I think that's the key piece, is we have to be willing to lean into those vulnerable, uncomfortable places that we want to project on other things or distract ourselves from. Or, I had a friend like about 4 years ago when we were talking about some really deep stuff, because I've known him for a long time. He goes, I won't go there.
mhm.
And it's like, the problem is, and you don't have to go there with me. I'm not, but if you don't go there, at least with yourself,
Yeah,
or if with professional support, if you need it, it will eat you alive.
yes.
It is, these are the things, these storylines are the things that are keeping us back from
Mm,
throwing all the sandbags at once and taking that 20-year plan to a 2-minute plan.
mm.
That's what's holding us. We're holding ourselves back with all of these stories. And so what you're talking about is, it's like brief moments of breakthrough and epiphany, where it's like, oh, I don't need this, or oh, I don't need to focus on that, or those tasks that I've been
Yeah.
wasting my time doing, I don't need to do that, right? Because it's keeping me from what I really want to do. So I really see that we're coming into this year gaining more and more clarity.
And more so when you say it's not really wasting your time, right? Because you're in your zone of excellence, not genius. You're in your zone of excellence operating, whereas genius needs you to operate in that area rather than in excellence. So people, onlookers, individuals who are walking alongside you are saying, hey, Tracy, you're good at this. You're good at it, but that's not your genius operation operating there. And then they say, hey, come and help us with that thing that you're good at, you're excellent at. And you go, oh, sure. You're not, I hate to say wasting time. You are moving away from your path that more people will benefit from, something you've been called to do. More
It's the
people,
calling. That's the
8
key piece.
billion people are waiting for you. Whereas when you do this other task, you're going to hit maybe 2,000 people, right? But I want to share this. I got this book from a friend, Sarah Madras, for Christmas,
Ah,
right?
love
I heard
Sarah.
God laugh, right? And I listened to I listened to it. I read it, and there were two pieces, two things that just stood up to me. And I want to just read A and read B if I can.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, 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 mm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Lord, yeah, I am. I trust that you have an incredible plan for me. Today, I surrender my whole being to your care. I surrender my life, my plans, and my very self to you. I make myself 100% available to you. Transform me, transform my life. Everything is on the table. Take what you want to take and give what you want to give. Transform me into the person you created me to be so I can live the life you envisioned for me at the beginning of time. I hold nothing back. I am 100% available. Lead me, challenge me, encourage me, and open my eyes to all your amazing possibilities. Show me what it is you want me to do, and I will do it. Amen. So when I read that, I was like, oh my goodness, that. So I took a picture of it and kept it, put it on my phone. It's part of what we're talking about, hoisting those sandbags. But here's the second one, and then I just want to hear what you're thinking, what's come, because I see certain things conjuring up in you and bubbling to the top like la creme,
Like,
creme de la creme.
I hope it's not like phlegm.
No, no. So this he talked about this in another book, Seven Levels of Intimacy. But this one he says, um, carefree timelessness.
Mm.
Carefree timelessness is the reason young people fall in love so easily. And the lack of carefree timelessness is the reason so many couples forget their story together and fall out of love. What is carefree timelessness? Time together without an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I remove busyness from my schedule, guess what's created? Carefree timelessness. One, with God. Two, with my family. And it's what I was driving at. And I can just sit down with my daughter and say, "Hey, what's up?" Uh, and she will look at me like, "Oh, Daddy, is there an agenda here?" No, no agenda. Just what's up.
Mm.
And we discover, and that's where being exists.
That's
That's
right.
where human being, they didn't say human being, B-E-E-N. No, human being, B-E-I-N-G. I know I'm playing with words here, but that's where we exist. We're there, we're present, not past, not future, present.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, sis. You tell me what came up in you, because I can feel, I feel some stuff coming. I can
Well,
feel.
first of all, I just really honor that. I think that, Sarah is so good at making the right connections, either between, any resources, information. She just says the right thing. She always, I mean, really, for those of you who don't know who Sarah Madras is, you gotta check her out.
It's like, oh,
So, in fact, I think she's doing her own thing at this time. At
yeah,
the
she's
same time, I was
doing.
joking with her. I was like, "What? You're taking on the same time frame, and now I can't watch you. You can't watch us. What the heck?" But we all have playbacks, folks, so it's good. But yeah, that's everything. And I think the agenda piece. So this one client, and the one I was speaking about, and giving the analogy about the table, walking into the room,
Mhm.
who hoisted all the sandbags. One of the things he says, nothing goes on my agenda, nothing goes on my schedule unless it feels right. I mean, this guy literally went from ducks in a row to the exact opposite within 3
Mhm.
weeks. It shows that we can go from 0 to 60 in 2.5. We can take 10,
Like
12, 14, 20 years, or we can do it now.
yes.
And that's the piece that, again, that's our decision. Are we going to decide to lay these sandbags down, to lay these stories down, to be, or are we going to decide that we need to keep engaging with them? It's our decision. But what your point is, God's always made this available to us. He's like, I've been calling you all the time. My client, I think I told the story years ago, and I had him practicing this idea of what do you want to create in your life? And we focused on the car he wanted. And then, 2 days later, the car, showed up next to him with his, initials on the license plate. That's as I said to him, I said, these offerings are under our noses every second. Yeah. We're the ones that are blocking our vision of what's being offered. And it's for us, but it's to us, right? It's for us so we can go forward. But the first thing I thought of was actually what we're doing here. It's like there's been people who are like, oh, you should talk about this on the show. You should talk about that. I'm like, what part of unscripted in the moment don't you get? Like, I mean, friendly, right? Yeah, that is great. I appreciate that. Yes, it would be great. But, and if it comes up, if it bubbles up in the moment, because that's what it is to have no agenda.
Correct.
I mean, there's the agenda of us showing up, right? We got to show up. That's all really we're asked to do is show up and believe, show up, have trust, show up, have faith, show up, bring our genius, show up, be humble, show up. I mean, there's a lot of things we need to do when we show up, but making it happen and having an agenda and teaching people lessons and making sure that this goes there and controlling the whole thing, that's how we got into this mess.
Yeah.
Is the control.
Ooh.
When did we think we could do it better than God? At what point did we think that nature needed to be messed with? I mean, I'm all about advancement. I know you're holding your tongue.
Go ahead. Right. You got it. You good.
I mean, I am all about advancement. Bring it to the table, but don't bring it and create warfare with it and destroy everything else because of it. Like if it's going to destroy, if the advancement is going to destroy the natural way of things, maybe we need to look at it a little bit more carefully. And I think that's what we're realizing is these systems that we've built up that are going to protect us and keep us safe. What are they doing now? And I know we're not getting political, and I know we're not, but come on, like we get to look at that. We built things into such and we did it. People say, no, the Democrats did it. No, the Republicans did it. No, my dad did it. My mom did it. Like, right? Like, hello, at what point do we need to take responsibility? Because I mean, I see this in everything. Like I'm doing a talk in a couple of days about diversity and inclusion. And my biggest thing is we're trying to put the cart before the horse, folks. Like we're craving, we're talking about, we need diversity and inclusion. But I said, look at how we handle our conversations on social media. You go to Facebook and as soon as someone doesn't hold the same opinion as you, what do? We either try to tear them down or we ignore them and walk away. That, you know what diversity is? It's when we talked about this last time, when we bring different perspectives to the table, but it means different perspectives. Right. They're not going to be like ours. They could be totally polar opposite to ours, but how are we going to make room for them? If we're fighting them, we're doing the opposite of that. Right. So one of the things I think that's coming up is that we have to clear our own house before we have any right going in and saying how things need to be somewhere else. And that's what's going on right now is we're clearing our own house so we can get, and clearing, I don't just mean of the stuff, I mean getting clear in this house.
That's hard. Don't do that. It's so hard to do it on self. It is easy to do on others. I found
that's what we're doing. We're the surrogacy thing where if we can fix that person somehow, it's like I don't have to look and say it's about me. It's about them. But if I can fix them, then it'll somehow through osmosis fix me.
Yeah, that thing. I'm being sarcastic a bit, but I always go. So I said I want peace in my home. I want peace in my home. And you say, you always point to the other person and say, you're the one who's bringing confusion in this place. You're the one. So and finally it hit me. I go, hold up. the buck stops here. It's me. You know what? I will make the executive declaration that peace will be in my home, one, and I will not be a conduit for anything other than peace. So when
Mm.
something occurs and I'm talking and I'm about to blow, or I'm like, okay, but it doesn't mean you shine away from the problem. It's you will engage peacefully, you will engage lovingly. You're not running away from the issue. So when as we engage with our friends, our loved ones, co-workers, etc., you know, the primary thing in getting someone on your side is agreeing with them. Agree. That's if we're having a conversation, and I'm not saying I'm agreeing to say I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. Agreeing is I'm listening to you. I hear you. Okay, I hear you.
I'm connecting with you. That's what
And
I
then
hear is
I
connection.
come I come thereafter with, like when we were talking just now, and I said, you know, I go with from my family, I go with my armor completely. There aren't any chinks in it, right? And you say, oh no, well, when the armor has a half, I understood what you meant. You understood what I meant. But I'm going invincible from my family because I know those who I'm representing, they're taken care of. So when I come and engage with someone and I'm talking, I say, yeah, I agree with you on point A, point B, but you know what? Um, I have a different approach to 3 and 4. So here it is, dot, 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 dot. And the person goes, you know what? I agree with you on 3, but on 4, and then we slowly bring it to the top, and we find out most times, if we give it chance and we are mature, at the end, the conclusion is, but man, Tracy, we were saying the same thing. Yeah, we were saying it in a different, yeah. So let's put it in language that we both will say, agree, handshake, boom, and let's move on to the next one. But we don't give each other, we don't honor the other person. We
Mhm.
were so easy to dishonor, and we
Mhm.
dishonor them
So quick.
quickly, and then they go and say, and then they go and run in the corner in the boxing ring of pain, you know, in the blue corner, and there's pain, and I'm not gonna open my mouth. And we think, we think that we have won, but oh, how we have lost, because when blue corner and red corner come in and talk and give the mastermind of a decision, of a plan, oh my goodness, how grand it is, how everybody win. Oof.
And
Mm,
especially diverse perspectives. I mean, when
mm,
diverse perspectives can honor one another for being diverse and bring each of the perspectives that they bring from the other angle, so to speak, we have more of the true story. You know,
mm.
having the same perspectives come together just creates a larger small piece of the story,
Yes.
right? And so that's the piece that I think when you said honor, I've always felt that like begets like, right? When we start, we start a relationship, let's say, with lies, that relationship is going to grow up suckling off of lies,
Yeah.
and that relationship is going to be a lie.
Mm,
We started this country dishonoring the natives that lived upon it,
mm.
and we have continued to dishonor one another ever since.
Ooh, Jesus, girl.
So it goes way, way back. And but as they always say too, it's never too late.
I, I,
Oops, somebody just left the building.
I had to disappear for a while. Jesus, you said I'm gonna disappear again.
Why are you disappearing? Show your emotion, my friend. It's good. It's
No, no, it was just that for me is mic drop.
you're like I'm disappearing. Wait,
Ah,
move the mic.
let that
Okay.
sink in for a while.
Yeah. That's, I think, the ultimate. And so when we come to the table in the situations we're in and we feel dishonored, I'm not going to let that person dishonor me. I'm not going to I mean, think about all the yelling and screaming that we've had for a while now about how one side or one perspective or one person is dishonoring another. And it's because this whole relationship called the culture that is the United States of America began with dishonor. I mean, the people who lived on this land, they didn't necessarily invite us in all in one, because it's like, who are these people and where are they coming from? But over time, they started to trust us. And look at what we've done. And again, we all get to take responsibility. People are like, oh, I wasn't alive back then. That wasn't me. Those are my ancestors. I can't tell. Okay, well, if they're not here to take responsibility to change things, then who is?
Who?
And I think that that's the piece. I'm not saying be accountable to what they did, right? You know, because they get to be accountable, whatever. That's the, you know, we all get to be accountable to what we created, but be responsible for your piece in recognizing, here, those little friends coming at me at this point. Be responsible for, if you see it, what can you do about it? You know, and not through shame, because shame just makes us, shame, again, it's a storyline that keeps us from being our strongest selves and our most resilient selves. So we shouldn't feel shame over it. But, you know, because I think that's something that happened in the Black Lives Matter movement, where all of a sudden a bunch of white people started to feel shame. It was like, don't feel shame. Shame's not going to help anybody. Shame is just going to really put a whole monkey wrench in this whole thing. But we can look at the responsibility we have now with this insight, right? With what we know and what we see and what we're understanding better. And that's the best we can do, but we do need to get real. And that is something we've been struggling with as a collective, is getting real. And 2020 made it real.
But you know, you say this, and man, somber, very, very somber, sombering, sobering. You talked about, come on, blow it, girl. Rock the hair.
I'm blowing you kisses.
So,
little friend.
I know. So you come in, you get the trust, you remove the trust, you strong arm and put them in reservations. You also go to and you know, this isn't I talked to a friend of mine, was working at EMC, and he goes, let's go to war, let's go to war. And this was 1998, 2002. It was about, you know, the Iraq war. Let's go to war, let's do it, let's blast it. And I looked at him and I was like, I said, man, I said, have you been in war before? And he goes, no. I'm like, I say, even if you had, you would have been in war as the powerful one, as the one with the gun, right? Yeah. I said, so have you been the one without the gun, without the shelter, without the shield? Have you been the one scurrying on the floor, on the ground, and doing your crawl, so bullets that are flying over your head, there's no food, there's nothing? Have you been that one? Have you seen the war from that angle? Have you seen war from the angle of the dynamics, the culture, the way that people behave in other countries? There's a style of democracy that exists that is not perfect. Every democracy isn't perfect. So if I'm going to go to Libya, if Libya had Gaddafi in there for years, and I'm not going with what he did, what he didn't do, but the country was going, the oil was going, the country was rising, moving to the top. America goes in and gives their democracy, and what happens thereafter? That entire place is in turmoil. What happens to, let's go way back when in Africa, where the brothers were hanging, and then The man came in with the ship and the guns, and they said, "Hey, take the gun. Let's give me some smoked fish, give me some supplies, etc." And then all of a sudden, you know what? You can, you're more stronger than that. And then the divide, and always, always, always is about greed. Always is about getting richer because you want to get the resources. It's a great country. I'm not because it's a melting pot where people come, people come, people come. Your dreams are there's a blessing and a curse, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
pray that the blessing outlives the curse. We pray that the individuals, we who are living here now, who are Americans, because you come in, if you're first generation or 20th generation, you've come in. The first generation does not, the 20th generation does not look at the first and say, you don't belong, you don't say anything. No, as soon as I raised my hand and said the oath of this country, I got every single thing as the person who came here on a ship from Europe. Every single thing. So no color, no accent, nothing disparages me or puts me in a level that you're American citizen point two. I'm American citizen one. I'm version two. No, no, no. So we come here as a melting pot, and as we come here, let's remove this curse that says, man, these are the individuals who are coming in. Let's rally around them. Let's rally. Let's, you conjured up a whole lot of stuff for me when you said
Mm-hmm.
that American, the Native Americans who were here. It's so important that we see it from that perspective and not see it from Christopher Columbus.
Let's go conquer some lands that are nowhere near ours. That
You
sounds
know,
like a great idea.
I mean, we got to rewrite the story, and you know how we rewriting this story? You and I talking it.
That's right.
I think you and I talking it rewrites it. Because if a kid listens to this, and if you look at the map of Africa, I'm going to pause for a second after this so you can talk because you opened my mouth. If you look at
Good.
the map of
Good.
Africa, America fits in Africa, the real
Mm-hmm.
map, when you look at it. Almost all the continents can fit in Africa, but when they draw it as a little. Nigeria has, I don't know how many billions of people, and it's just one country in there. Until we can, just what you said, until we can honor each other and be truthful to one another, but that, I don't think that's going to happen in this world. That's utopia.
Yeah, well, when we can certainly get as darn close as we can, and I think that that's the piece. You said something so beautiful as I'm thinking of all the billions of people that you just spoke of. And each, like when you talked about that we're not Americans 2.0 or 1.0,
Mm.
every single life has equal value. There is no single human life that has less value than another. So those billions of people are equal to the billions of people that live, I don't know, wherever a billion people live in this country, let's say. And that's the piece that I think,
Mm.
we talk about this so that we can bring that perspective to the table, because when we're just walking around thinking differently and overlooking these very poignant, solid foundational points, then we're building on something that we may not want to be building upon.
Mm.
Kind of like building a culture on dishonor. Right? Did we think about that generations after everything was settled and we had become a United States of America? We didn't even think that every single system that we were building was based on this, taking something from someone that didn't belong. I mean, they didn't even, the Native Americans never even considered it their land. They consider themselves stewards to the land. We were the ones that came, we collective, the people who came, Christopher Columbus gets blamed for this, but there were quite a few,
True.
that came in and decided, oh, because I landed on it, I own it. It's like people who trademark things. One of the things I said to my girlfriend when I was talking about this whole jealousy thing, I said something that triggered me was, a couple people who I know are in the coaching field, and I coached them early on before they became coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And now I see my language showing up, and I go, you know what's preposterous about that? And I said this to her. I said, I don't own that language. I'm like, my language shows up in there. Like, what ridiculousness is that? But that's what we do when our ego tells us I have to be important through what I own, or what I spoke first. Like, okay, first of all, before we were even born, there's thousands and millions of people who spoke that language before we were even here. So that's how crazy this is, and how ingrained we are in this concept of, like, when people are like, oh, you said that, trademark it. To what point? Like, what, why do I need to claim, oh, I said that first? Because first of all, there's many, many people who said it before. They just, maybe there was no such thing as a trademark back then. So we really get to step back and look at this. What are we fighting for? And what should we be supporting instead? Because what we're fighting for, we're also fighting against. And anything that we resist persists. Against is resistance. And in that resistance, we cause a persistence. Right? So yeah, I'm opening up a lot of stuff. Sorry, your brain's exploding.
No. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I can handle it.
No.
I'm on a roll these days. My clients are just like, what's up with you? It's like some energy just opens you up. And I think that that's what's changing in me, is I'm letting go of my own sandbags. And one of them is the lock that I put on my mouth for a long time.
True. Yeah. You know.
On my thoughts, I'm just like, oh yeah, I got to just say it. And if I, my husband always loves to say, if people are offended, it's because they've chosen to be. Because my heart, it's not coming from an offensive place. It's coming from that's what I said to my client today when he was going into some negotiations, and he goes, I'm worried that my typical temper will come up, because he says, I'm so passionate. I said, well, what if you could funnel the passion, knowing that what's passion? It's because you care, and you care. Why don't you focus on connection?
Correct.
Instead, right? Instead of, I'm going to have to fight them, intentional focus. Why don't you go in knowing that what you really are there for, and what you really matters most to you, is connection, and come from that place. And that's what I think of with myself too, is like, all of this is to make connections in the synapses in our brain. And if it can be helpful, and if it can add to what we're already doing in here, and if it can be supportive, or even if it can challenge, right? Get us into this place of it. That's what I'm best at, actually, is challenging. Then that's what it's for. It is not, to make people. And I think that's where I got to tell the story. Like, yes, I was saying I needed to put myself up here and be better than, or, whatever, to keep myself safe. But what that's done is it's misaligned me in the way others have perceived me and experienced me in such a way that the great gifts I have to offer aren't always receivable. And when they aren't receivable, I don't get the value of being able to put them out there. Right? Which is what I was created for. And it's true of all of us, right? I'm speaking for all of us here. Right. And I really, so now that I'm like, oh, this is my duty. God made me, to open my mouth and put together sentences and connections, and not be attached to them, and be totally in honor of, like, somebody comes back and says, yeah, well, I don't see it that way. Because sometimes we can find that we are actually coming from the same place, but sometimes we just aren't. We're really literally coming from different places. Right. And that's valuable too.
Yes, it is.
Right? We don't always have to come to this place where we're agreeing. Sometimes the agreeing to disagree is the greatest lesson, and the one that we need right then. That's why it's presenting itself. So for, like, trying to come to the table to make it all happy, and, to either win, which a lot of people like, I'm either winning or losing. I'm like, oh, you might want to look at that. It's not working in your life, right? Or they come to the table being persuasive. Like, I'm here to, like, persuade the other person to see my side. Or some people are like, I'm there to agree with other people. Like, that's their job. If we just let go of that, we're not there for any of those things. We're not there to agree, disagree. We're there to be, go back to the point that you were saying about being with your family. We're there to be with one another, and we're there to honor one another, and we're there to be honest with one another. And that's what we're going to find is part of what's keeping us from being able to build these paradigms and establishments that allow for all of this that we're talking about, is that there's so much lying and deception and corruption. There's so much shadow. There's so many skeletons in the closet that have to come out
Yeah.
before we can get to that point,
Yeah.
legitimately, not just give lip service to it.
You know, oof. You talk about a table. One is, I said, as you were talking about table, I just saw 30 different cultures coming to a table, taking the identical raw materials, and when they create the meal, it's completely different, all 30 different, but it's so
Mm,
good. And you're like, oh, wow, I never thought to put this in there. Wow.
that's it.
And
I
that's
love
what it is, coming, creating, taking our ingredients and bringing it to the table. The second one was,
that.
how how can I don't know why this is coming. I just spoke to someone and they found out their spouse was cheating on them, found out a couple days before New Year. And I thought, and when you said it just now, I thought to myself, honesty, was it built on honesty? You know, because you said it earlier, and my heart grieves to think that if we're in a relationship, I'm going one way where we're supposed to be going, and you're going the opposite way, and that that brings us to, come on, let's go back to the beginning. When we started, did we were we honest with each other? And the only thing I can think about is the hard. And I'm telling you this, I'm speaking. I don't tell stories of clients. I don't tell stories of others. I tell my story. We tell our story. The only thing I can think about is me coming to Berlin and putting everything on the table and saying, baby, in 19 blah blah blah, I did X. In this other time, there was a time in my life I watched pornography, honey. And she go, oh, honey. I'm like, yes, I did. Because before telling her that, I had a compartment that kept it and it was safe. However, I could open that compartment in this relationship, but because it was in a compartment, she wouldn't see it because I would hide it and look at that compartment and hey, babe. And I got so tired, so tired, and said, honey, I watch pornography. And she goes, and I went in the doghouse. This was what? Well, we 20 years in, maybe it was what, five years or so in, and so many other things that we had to bring to the table. I had to bring to the table in order for us to hit 20,
Mm.
or else it wouldn't have been 20. It would have been 5. It would have been 2. It would have been 6. And even in 20, there is, I would say there's eternal alignment, meaning alignment to infinity, where we have to keep on aligning because we are growing and experiencing things every day. So I have to align with her, she with me, so that we can keep by choice. We'll agree to stay in this and we'll continue going based on the truths and the honesty of who we were and saying that's who I was. Okay.
Well, and I think that's beautiful. And I think what's happening around that very piece is, a lot of who we were when we came into relationships may not be who we are. We might have been a false identity
Yes.
then. And as we've grown, we're our true identity, and there's no longer alignment in that relationship.
Yes, Tracy.
And we're lying because we're trying to keep alignment. And this is what's happening. Instead of saying, I'm just not aligned to this relationship, you go and cheat with someone else. That's not truth. That's not honesty. Honesty is saying, I don't feel aligned in this anymore. And it's not to say, people get to decide what they want to do in that. They either try to get realigned or they just say, I just am not feeling it.
Correct.
But instead of running elsewhere, or instead of hiding under a rock, or instead of pretending it's fine, and then it's clearly not fine, that's the kind of honesty I think we're coming into.
Yeah.
Is this place where you said, I'm so tired, I'm so tired. I think that's what's happening. People are dropping sandbags because they just can't carry them anymore.
And you
And
can't,
they shouldn't, right? Because
you
those are
should
the
not.
very things that are holding us back.
You should not. You should not. And so, people who are watching, the proverbial, I got a closet. You got a closet. Yeah, you got a closet. Get out of your closet, really. You're not living. You are
Oh,
in your
no, you're always
fear.
worried about who's going to open the closet door.
Correct, correct. Your fear about the person finding out who you are. Trust me, that's fear. It's true. It's fear. It's such a mirage that when you do stand in front of it and say it, you'll be quite surprised on what the other person on the receiving end says, that it's okay. And by the way, do you know I had the same issue? You too? Really? Huh? Or the person's going to explain something, and believe it or not, it creates such a fertile ground for the best fruits to grow.
Yep, absolutely. 100% of the time.
The best fruits
100%.
to
And
grow.
it's not about going one way or another. It's kind of like what you and I have kind of tried to say neutral. I can't take sides. We're not here to tell people you got to work on your relationship, and we're not telling people to separate. I
Mhm.
mean, it's whatever happens in that fertile ground that is going to be the best for all parties involved can grow. It can't grow if there's still parts of the ground that are missing, right?
Naturally.
It can't grow. You can't decide what's best if you're still hiding because you don't know. I mean, it's kind of like the storylines that we give and that we project on everything. Oh, that person's thinking this about me. That person's, have you asked the person? Because like you said, most of the time when you share that, either it's sharing part of your secrets or sharing your perspective
Mm,
on a given situation,
yes.
you will find so often, oh, I thought it was me. I thought you were upset with me, or I was thinking you were thinking that about me. I mean, there's the funniest stuff that comes out, and funny, but that comes out of being transparent. And I think that that's really, I know that's what I'm looking to do. And this is what I really appreciate about this platform.
Yeah.
It gives an opportunity for both of us, where it seems right, or where to call that out within ourselves and
Yes.
to invite other people to join us.
Mm, mm,
Right.
mm. Sis, as you were talking, the only thing I want to say in closing is, if you have some seeds and you're putting it in the garden, and I'm talking to me, you, and everybody who will listen, who are listening, and it's not grown the way you're expected to grow, the gardener comes in, and he looks and he says, this should have been 6 inches by now. Let's see what happens. And he goes under the roots and sees that there are rocks under there, and he should have taken those rocks, tilled it properly, moved the rocks or softened the rocks, the mud, put some nutrients in there, put some miracle grow in there. What's miracle grow to your relationship? Miracle grow to your relationship is you coming and saying and being truthful. You know where it's supposed to be, and it's not there, and you think and you know it. And the reason why it's not there is because you are hiding. You are not coming and being truthful. And if you become truthful and the person leaves, great. That person wasn't for you. So don't be selfish to the person.
That's the other piece. Yeah, I agree with you. I think when we're transparent, then I always say that everybody gets, when I would oftentimes share with my family, I always seem to take a different perspective. And I said this to my mom recently. I said, it wasn't about being contrary ever. It was about, I've always thought, well, I saw it from this point of view. And if I offer that, then people have more perspectives to make the best decision, right? If we only know one side of the story, how are we going to make an educated decision, right? If there's more sides, I want to know as many sides as are present so that I know what's available and what the options are. If I'm only presented one thing, I'm like, oh, I guess I only have one option. No, there's 50,000 options. Oh, I didn't know there were 50,000 options. I was only seeing this one. So that's what I always do, is for consideration. It's just another way to look at it. And it gives you the opportunity to choose from what resonates for you. And so if you're holding back on someone because you're not you feel you don't want to hurt their feelings or whatever, give them the ability to make that decision for themselves, right? I just, that's the honorable thing to do. If we're talking about honor, it really is, not holding people captive to something they don't even know they're being held captive to.
Oh, stop that. Stop right there, sister. 2 o'clock. I don't want these in the, and there has been a steady, people have been on and they haven't commented. I don't know, they're just listening and being shy to comment. But we love you guys so much joining us, the first episode of season number 2. Traci, once again, we didn't know we were gonna hit it out of the park, but once again, I perceive it's a home run every time we come and talk. Thank you so much for being available.
Available. Yes. Well, speaking of that, we'll have to talk offline, but just heads up, folks, the next eavesdrop might be at a different day or time. So,
Or I don't know, we'll see.
so just stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Take care and have a good one. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.